If you're a federal employee within about 5 to 10 years of retirement, deciding what to do with your TSP is one of the biggest money decisions you'll ever make. And if you get it wrong, you can lock yourself into more taxes and more stress than you really need. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 real options you'll have for your TSP: keeping it, moving it, or using a smart split. And I'll also discuss how I think about each one if I were in your shoes. I'm Tom, I'm a certified financial planner, and I help federal employees turn their TSP, first pension, and Social Security into a clear, tax-smart retirement paycheck. So let's get into it. So when you retire, your TSP really has 3 paths. Keep everything in the TSP, roll everything to an IRA, or split it up, keeping some in the TSP and move some to an IRA. Now, most people only hear about the first 2, but for a lot of federal couples I work with, some version of the split ends up being the most practical and the least stressful. And just to be clear right up front, there is no single best option here. There's only what fits how you live, how you spend your money, and how you want retirement to feel like for you and your family. So let's start with keeping everything in the TSP, because this can be a really good fit for the right person. Here's what I found why people like it. First, it's simple. You have one main account and one website to log in and keep access. It's also familiar because you've been saving and investing all these years and decades into it. The G Fund gives you a unique, very stable place for your safe money, and it's usually easier for a spouse to understand and manage if something happens to you. Now, what I've found over the years is for a lot of folks, retirement is not just about squeezing out every last dollar on a spreadsheet, right? It's more about making sure the bills get paid, knowing you're going to be okay and that you don't have to think about this stuff every single day. Now, where it can get tricky is when withdrawals can feel less flexible than expected. It's harder to coordinate detailed tax moves like planned Roth conversions. Or if you want complete control over which dollars you spend in which years, the structure can feel a little limiting. And remember, the TSP was built primarily for accumulation, right, while you're working, not for customized income and tax planning after you retire. Now, that doesn't make it bad. It just means you have to know what it's good for and what it's not. Now, the second path is rolling everything from your TSP into an IRA. People usually do this because they want flexibility. So, for example, you'll have more control over how and when money comes out. There's more investment options than the core TSP funds. It's also easier to coordinate withdrawals with your first pension and Social Security. And there's more tools for long-term tax planning, like structured Roth conversions and RMD planning. But what often gets overlooked is that with more flexibility comes more responsibility, right? There's more decisions you'll need to make because there's more moving parts. And there's just more chances to second guess yourself or overthink things. Now, I've seen federal retirees roll everything to an IRA because it sounded better, right? And they never actually used the extra flexibility. They just made their life more complicated and their spouse more overwhelmed for no real benefit. So if you're going to roll everything out, you want to be very honest about whether you or your advisor are actually going to use what you're paying for in terms of flexibility. Now, let's talk about the third option. And this is the one almost no one explains clearly, and it's splitting it up. Instead of asking, should I keep my TSP or roll the whole thing over, making it a binary yes or no decision, you should ask, what do I want each dollar to do for me and my retirement? For many federal retirees, that ends up looking like keeping a portion in the TSP, often using the G Fund and maybe an L Fund for stability, simplicity, and peace of mind, or moving a portion to an IRA to use as a planning tool for taxes, Roth conversions, and more precise withdrawal strategies. So think of it like this. Your TSP becomes your foundation, your IRA becomes your planning tool. So you're keeping what works and giving yourself more flexibility to increase your planning options. And this is usually where the anxiety drops because you're not betting everything on one irreversible decision. So let me give you a quick way to do a self-check so you can figure out which option might be best for you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read a few statements. Just count how many yes responses you have in your head after I say each one. So the first one is I want simplicity, but I don't want to feel boxed in if tax laws change. I care a lot about avoiding future tax surprises. I like the idea of choosing which dollars I spend first between my TSP, IRA, or Roth instead of everything being on autopilot. I don't want 5 different accounts, but I'm okay with 2 if they each have a clear job. I'm thinking about how easy this will be for my spouse to handle if they ever have to step in and take over. Now, if you had 0 or 1 yeses to those, you might lean more toward keeping everything in the TSP for sheer simplicity. If you had 3 or more yeses, you're probably a good candidate for some kind of a split, a foundation in the TSP and a planning tool in an IRA. Here's an example if you value simplicity first. This is the GS14 in their early 60s who says, I don't want to log into 5 platforms. I just want my pension, my Social Security, and my TSP to be there, pay the bills, and be done with it. They want predictable income, minimal ongoing decisions, something their spouse could easily manage if needed. For this person, staying mostly or even entirely in the TSP can be a fantastic fit. It may not be perfectly optimized for taxes or retirement income, but it matches their personality and reduces stress. And honestly, sometimes managing stress matters more than having the perfect spreadsheet. Now compare that with another couple. They're in their late 50s, maybe a little earlier in the retirement window. They say things like, are these future RMDs going to bump us into a higher tax bracket? Some years we'll travel more, some years less. I don't want big surprise tax bills. We've heard about Roth conversions and want to at least explore whether they make sense for us or not. For them, a split strategy often stands out best. They keep a solid base in their TSP, often using the G fund for structure and stability. Then they roll a portion to an IRA that we use for planned Roth conversions in their 60s, coordinating withdrawals around their first pension and Social Security start dates, and managing how much taxable income actually shows up each year. Now, at the end of the day, this decision is not just about fees, the types of investments, or which IRA platform you use. The focus should be more on how predictable your retirement paycheck feels, how confident you are when tax season rolls around, how easy this is for your spouse to manage if they ever have to, and whether retirement feels confident and calm versus being constantly stressed. The biggest mistake I see is not choosing the wrong option. It's choosing without context, without looking at how your TSP decision fits with your first pension, your Social Security, and what you actually want life to look like in retirement. So if you want help seeing which mix makes sense for your situation, that's exactly what I do in something I call a federal retirement tax and income map. We take your actual numbers and map how your first pension, your Social Security, and your TSP fit together. We decide how much, if any, to keep in TSP versus move to an IRA, and we lay out a clear tax-aware income plan for retirement. The goal with this is to move you from, I hope this works, to I know why we chose this plan. If that would be helpful, click the link below the video and we'd be happy to see where we can help. Otherwise, I'd encourage you to check out this video right here, where I go over how the TSP changes in 2026 will affect your retirement. I break down exactly what federal employees need to know going into the new year. So click here to watch, and I'll see you over there.